What would your filing cabinet look like? Mine would be longer than that one, is what I'm afraid of. This morning we're going to talk about our filing cabinets. We're in week 2 of a series called I Am, and what we're discussing is who was Jesus? Not the Fabio Jesus, not the picture Jesus. Who really was Jesus? Not even who your mom and dad told you Jesus was, not who you heard Jesus was. This is a funny thing that I find, and it's actually a pretty true stat. When people think about God, when they picture God, the truth is they actually picture something equivalent to who their dad is. And so if you grew up with an authoritative dad, you come across with God as an authoritarian. If you grew up with a caring, kind of soft-spoken dad, God's kind of a soft-spoken dad. But when it comes to Jesus, what we actually picture Jesus is just off of what we've heard or seen, whether it be through a Hollywood movie or whether it be through what somebody told us. So we're digging in to Scripture and we're answering the question, who is Jesus? And we can find that answer. And here's how we can find that answer, because Jesus actually told us who he was through a series of statements. They're called I am statements. And so Jesus had about 7 of those. We're going to land on 4 of those over the month of April. Last week, we talked about that Jesus said, I am the resurrection and the life. This week, I've titled my message, Jesus is for everyone. You see, when you heard last week, I am the resurrection and the life, everybody just kind of goes, well, of course, it's Easter, right? But when you think about the power behind that statement, when you break apart that statement just a little bit, it's a pretty bold, dynamic statement, and here's why. Because without the resurrection, Christianity is basically worthless. Think about that for a second. Without the resurrection, it's just another dead guy. Without the resurrection, there is no hope. Without the resurrection, there is no power. Everything Jesus predicted, everything he said, without the resurrection, it doesn't hold water. But Jesus says, I am the resurrection. And then we saw last week how he proved it, how he showed it. He made himself known to people all over the place. So we see that statement actually came to life. That statement became a true statement. This week's I am statement is just as bold. And I would say this week's I am statement actually causes a lot of tension. It causes a lot of tension in your workplace. It causes a lot of tension in schools. It causes a lot of tension on the news. And it's actually found in John 14:6. Jesus told them, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. See, that part's not so. But then he says, no one comes to the Father except through me. That's where the tension comes. No one comes to the Father except through me. So what are you saying, Pastor, that if I don't accept Jesus, I'm not going to heaven? See where the tension lies? What are you saying, Jesus, that all roads don't lead to heaven? See where the tension lies? And here's the crazy thing. Jesus is for everybody. But it creates this tension. It's a phenomenal statement. This is actually the mother of all politically incorrect statements in America in 2018. It really is. If you think about it, on the surface, it seems very, very inclusive. Right? Only a select few. Only those who believe in Jesus. It seems inclusive, but the reality of it is it's one of the most exclusive statements ever made. When you get exclusive, when you say there's only one way to get to heaven, people cringe. People get uptight. Some of you in here this morning, you don't believe in Jesus. You don't believe in God. You're here because somebody's getting baptized. You're here because somebody's joining. You're here to score a date with somebody you've been asking for a long time. Whatever brought you here. You don't even believe it. And that statement alone makes you cross your arms and go, see, that's my problem. Is they don't allow everybody, which is the total opposite of the truth. You see, I actually believe that you can belong before you believe. And the reason I believe that is because Jesus believes that. You see, Jesus never said, hey, I've got a bunch of preconditions that I need you to do before you follow me. He never said, hey, I need you to go get right before you follow me. As a matter of fact, what he said is, hey, drop what you're doing and follow me. And this is why, because he knew if you would take that first step and get around Jesus, that your life would change. You see, you don't have to get right first. You just need to get around. And by getting around, I wholly believe that you'll get right. And see, that's the way Jesus worked. And so this morning we're going to take a look at that, because I think sometimes when you come to buildings like this and you got guys like me, you see all of these systems and all of these prerequisites and these lists of do's and don'ts. And it's just like, man, whatever happened to just, hey, stop what you're doing and follow me? You see, here's the deal. You can't put Jesus in a system, because Jesus is the system. And it stops right there. You can do a bunch of man-made things, and I'm not saying they're bad things, so don't blast me on that. I'm saying some of them are probably good things, but Jesus is the system. It's not just like an inclusive and controversial statement. If you say this, Jesus is the only way in a group setting, it's going to create tension. And you may even be called names. You may be called intolerant. You may be called a bigot. You may be called uncompromising, prejudiced, narrow-minded. If you say, hey, look, here's the truth. Jesus is the only way to heaven, you're going to get a reaction. And here's how I know, because Jesus got a reaction when he said it. It made a whole bunch of religious people really uptight. And this was one of the statements that actually began the process of them coming after Jesus. And see, here's a crazy thing when I think about that, and I think about the tension that Jesus' statement caused, and I look at all the other religions of the world, I go, man, it doesn't really add up, because people will tolerate just about anything. They'll tolerate all kind of craziness. They'll tolerate all kind of beliefs. When you look at like John Smith, and you look at like Scientology, I mean, we got a religion with a billion people in it, and their whole premise is, if you don't believe the way we do, we're going to kill you. People are tolerant about that. But when it comes to Jesus saying, I am the way, the truth, and the life, nobody comes to the Father except through me, it causes backlash. And here's a crazy stat for you. Less than 30% of people worldwide actually think that Jesus is the only way, and that's in the Christian world. The stat in America is only like 12%. Only about 12% actually believe this statement. And here's the problem with not believing this statement, is if you don't believe the statement, you have to say Jesus' statement is incorrect. You see, Jesus didn't say, hey, I am a way. He didn't say, I am one of the ways. He didn't say, I am a life. He didn't say, I am one of the truths. He said, I am the way, the only way. He said, I am truth, the only truth. I don't care what your professor says. I don't care what Hollywood says. I don't care what Oprah says. I don't care what Trump says. He said, I am the way, I am the truth, and I am the life. I am the only way you're going to spend eternity in heaven with my Father. Do you see where the tension comes? There's tension in the room this morning. Some of you are like, dude, you're being aggressive today. It's an aggressive statement, but it's so true. Because here's the problem, and here's the tension. If you don't believe in that statement, you don't believe in what Jesus said. And it's kind of hard to be a follower of Jesus if you don't even believe what the dude said. Right? Now we got some more tension. Well, I don't know, Pastor. I think that's an archaic way to look. Again, I go back to, well, Jesus said it. And I think that the problem when it comes to Jesus and exploring who Jesus is guys like me have miscommunicated it really bad. And I think church has actually miscommunicated it. You come into buildings like this, and you listen to guys like me, and sometimes Christians have a tendency to be a little inclusive. It's kind of like us versus them. This morning I want to take a quick look at a passage that kind of talks about this whole premise of whether Jesus was actually inclusive or exclusive. It's found in Romans 3. If you got your Bibles, turn with us. It's Romans 3, 21 through 26. If you don't, we're going to throw it up on screen. You can follow us along. I love this passage. I get a little geeked out with it. And so here we go. But in our time, something new has been added. What Moses and the prophets witnessed to all those years has happened. So all of the prophecies, all of the things that they said would come true, Jesus actually matched up with them. And so everything has come true that Moses and all of them had talked about. The God setting things right that we read about has become Jesus setting things right for us. I love that sentence. I could go into that for a while, but we got to dunk a bunch of people here in a minute. For there is no difference. Oh, wait, where am I at? The God setting things right that we read about has become Jesus setting things right for us. And not only for us, but for everyone who believes in him. I want to stop right there for a second. When we talk about exclusive and inclusive, when we talk about Jesus and we talk about the statement not being any other way to heaven, it looks like there's parameters and it's not for everybody. And the truth is, it's actually for everybody, because Jesus is actually the most inclusive way that there is. The truth about Jesus, and last week we talked about Jesus is the gospel, right? Jesus is the gospel. This week we're talking about the gospel is for everybody. You see, that verse says it's for anybody who believes. It's not for this or that. It's for anybody that believes. And it amuses me on Sunday. Sunday, so the church, Jesus left the church to be the hope of the world, and we're supposed to look and talk and think and act like Jesus. But you go out on Sundays. Sunday is sometimes the most segregated day of the week. 11 o'clock, 10:30 if you come to ours, is often one of the most segregated hours of the week. And here's why. Because we can't get along. It's us versus them. It's insiders versus outsiders. And there's this thought on the outside, and maybe not in here, but there's this thought for people who don't do the church thing, that church is this exclusive group of people, instead of the church is an embracing group of people. And I love the fact TWCC slings their doors wide open. But by and large, here's the truth of it. And I hear it all the time from unchurched people, that church is this country club. It's just exclusive. And you know what? I would go to church, but I really don't fit. And can I tell you something that's totally opposite from what Jesus taught? Jesus said, hey, stop what you're doing. Follow me. What would it look like if church was actually a group of people that loved everybody? That showed love beyond imagination. See, Jesus made this statement, people will know that you follow me by the way that you love. He didn't say people will know that you follow me by the bumper stickers on your car. He didn't say people will know that you follow me by the t-shirt. He said people won't know that you follow me by 100 different ways that we try to do. He said people will know you by the way that you love others. And when it comes to loving everybody, when it comes to loving others, it talks about, hey, you got to love people from all walks of life. You got to love beatniks and hippies. You got to love headbangers and rednecks. You got to love old people and young people. You got to love squeaky clean, and you got to love people with a past. You got to love people with gray hair, and you got to love people with no hair. It doesn't matter. Jesus says you love them all. And here's why. Because anybody can come to Christ. It's not exclusive. It's inclusive. We're supposed to love all groups of people. We're supposed to love all groups of people. You know what? Baptist people go to Baptist church. Methodist people go to Methodist church. Catholic people go to Catholic church. Highlands people go to Highlands church. It's true. And we all seem to have this issue. This is what I'm talking about. We're segregated. When I look around this congregation, I see Baptist, I see Methodist, I see Catholic, I see Highlands, I see Baptist Costal, I see Pentecostal. I see people who don't believe in God. I see people who are sold out for God. You see, this church is supposed to be a melting pot. Church is supposed to be inclusive. Church is supposed to show love to all people. Church is supposed to show love to all colors. There is no black church. There is no Hispanic church. There is no white church. And I'm just going to tell you this morning, if you got a problem with another race, you got a problem with you. And you got a problem with Jesus. And I'm going to tell you, that creates tension in Alabama. But I'm going to tell you, if you got a problem, you need to get your heart right. There is no black church. There is no white church. There is no Hispanic church. There's God's church. And here's how I know that. Because God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he, him, male and female created him, he, them. We're all an image of God. And we're all God's children. Period. There's no room for race in God's church. There's no room for exclusivity in God's church. There's no room for weeding out neighborhoods. I don't care if you live on the west side. I don't care if you live on the east side, the south side. I don't care if you go to central. I don't care if you go to county. I don't care if you live in a good neighborhood or the bad neighborhood. I don't care if you have no neighborhood. I don't care if you have a lot of money or no money. Jesus said, anybody. And see, that bugs people. But here's the truth of it. The guy we follow was the most inclusive person out there. This is the religion that's supposed to be the most loving. So why are we the most segregated? You see, Jesus is portrayed, and often by his own people and often by his own church, as this unwelcoming, exclusive country club. Like, you got to know the secret handshakes. You got to know the songs. You got to know the verses. You know what? There's people out there that don't know what John 3:16 is. And we ought to welcome them. Just like the people who have read the Bible front to back 40 years. Because they're the ones who need to meet the saving power, grace of Jesus Christ. You know, oftentimes in church we say insiders versus outsiders. If you don't meet this list of criteria, then you're not welcome. And here's the deal. We may not actually say it, but the people outside are feeling it. And it's because we sit and we huddle. When Jesus says the total opposite, go out into all the world. Go out into your communities. Go out into other nations. Go out throughout the state. And here's the crazy thing to me. We get all pumped up about, hey, we're going to Memphis. We get all pumped up about, hey, we're going to another country. We get all pumped up about that. We ought to get all pumped up about going to the neighborhoods right around us. There are thousands of people in Northport, Alabama that need Jesus. And we need to get fired up about them. And here's why, because Jesus is fired up about them. And as a church, we've got to get to a place where we sling our doors wide open. You want vision. TWCC needs to be the most welcoming church in this county. And here's why I know that. Because there are so many people in Northport and Tuscaloosa, Alabama, that if they don't meet Jesus, they're going to burn in hell. And we don't talk about hell much, and I'm not the hellfire and brimstone pastor, but it's the truth. Jesus says, I am the way, I am the truth, and I am the life, and I want you to spend eternity with me and my Father. Why in the world would we not give that to as many people? We have the cure. Let's give it away. Let's give it away. And you know what? We're going to go to chairs, right? Can I tell you something? It's not about pews. It's not about chairs. It's not about lights. It's not about music. It's not about the loudmouth dude on the stage. It's about none of that. It's about the cross. It's about Jesus. It was about Jesus. It is about Jesus. And it will always be about Jesus. We get so wrapped up in the paint and the buildings and the parking. Man, I'm going to tell you something. We're all going to get up if somebody walks in here and needs Jesus. We're all going to give our seats up. We're going to open the door. I don't care where they've come from. We're going to open the door, and we're going to open our arms, and we're going to wrap them around. And here's why. Because Jesus opened his arms. And he said, just follow me. Just follow me. It's that easy. And we make it so difficult. Just follow me. And we're going to be loud and obnoxious about it. And here's the deal. We need some calm and steady. And it's a great balance in a church because I'm loud and obnoxious and I'll run 100 miles an hour and I need calm and steady. But calm and steady also needs loud and obnoxious because y'all need some excitement. All right? So we're going to balance each other out. But as a church, we're going to go out and reach people. We're going to get outside the walls. We're going to get outside our comfortable pews or chairs or whatever we're going to sit on next week. And we're going to get into the communities. And here's why. Because we don't have much time. We have X amount that God's given us. Let me ask you a question. What are you doing with the time that God's giving you? And I'm going to be honest with you. This seems kind of an aggressive message. And truth be told, if you're in here and you're just kind of sitting and you're looking for a good place to grow old and die, we may not be the church for you. There's a lot of churches that would love to have your number up on their attendance board. As for me in this church, we're going to continue to go after the lost with everything we've got. We're going to disciple those who are found, and we're going to go after the lost. And my goal, if you've accepted Christ, there's a place for you because I need you to get passionate about those people. East side, west side, south side, north side, rich, poor, black, white. I need you to get excited. And we need to be the most welcoming place in Tuscaloosa and Northport because people need Jesus. And we're going to welcome them to Jesus because that's what Jesus has told us to do. He said, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. Now go tell somebody and bring them to me. Go into the streets, bring them to me. Everything that you hear about Jesus, bring them to me. And here's why, because He loves them. And He loves you. People will know you by that you follow me by the way you love people. And see, here's the crazy thing. On our best day, we get all dressed up, we put our Sunday mask on, and we walk in here like we got it together, and maybe you've got it together right now, but there's going to come a day that you don't have it together. There's going to come a day when something from your past pops back up. But Jesus says, you know what? I love you and I died for you. I love you in spite of your junk. I love you in spite of your past. I love you in spite of your hurts. I love you in spite of your personality. He loves you the same that He loves them. And when we all get on the same page, and that page, the author is Jesus. When we all get on that same page, here's what I know. We could be a driving force for Christ in our community and in our state. And there's never been a time more in need of the saving grace and love of Jesus Christ as America in 2018. And it's true. When I look and I see the tension and I see the hate, I go, where is the church? Because the church was left to be the hope of the world. And it was left to be a light in a dark world. Here's my question. Are we being a light? Not only for us, not only for our light, not only for the way I want the light to look, but are we being a light and a beacon for everybody? Because for everybody who believes in Him, for anybody who believes in Him, and let me tell you something, there's no difference between us and them. We're all broken. Nobody's righteous. No, not one. The same opportunity of grace and love that Christ gave us, we need to extend to other people. Let's jump back in the verse. Since we've compiled this long and sorry record as sinners. I love that statement. That's your filing cabinet, by the way. Both others, what does yours look like? We prove that we are utterly incapable of living the glorious lives God wills for us. God did it for us. Out of sheer generosity, He put us in right standing with Himself, a pure gift. You see, you can't work hard enough to earn it. God said, here, it's free. See, this hangs people up, and I don't really get it. It's free. He said, here, all you got to do is take it. You ain't got to go through the dude on stage. You ain't got to go through a bunch of hoops. He said, the gift is free. Just take it. He got us out of the mess we're in, and He restored us to where He always wanted us to be. And He did it by the means of Jesus Christ. You see, Jesus said, I am the way, I am the truth, I am the life. He brought us to where we needed to be by the means of Jesus Christ. And I'll say it again. It was about Jesus. It is about Jesus. And it will always, always, always be about Jesus. And as a church, that needs to be our focus. It's not about the pews that we sit in. It's not about somebody took my seat. You see, the rest of this verse says, God sacrificed Jesus on the altar of the world to clear that world of sin. Having faith in Him sets us in the clear. Having faith in Him sets us in the clear. Not getting everything right. Not trying to break whatever you got going on. But having faith in Him. If we confess with our mouth, believe in our heart that God raised from the dead, you will be saved. You will be saved. And then it goes on to say, God decided on this course of action in full view of the public. He set the world in the clear. He set the world in the clear with Himself through the sacrifice of Jesus, finally taking care of the sins He had so patiently endured. You see, He's a patient God. I said it last week, I'll say it again. I look at the news and I just go, man, when's enough? As long as there's one more not following Him. As long as there's one more that's going to be separated from Him. It's never enough. And He's patient. This is not only clear, but it's now. This is current history. God sets things right. I want to encourage you this morning. It's now. He makes it possible for us to live in His righteousness. Now. If you're in here this morning and you don't follow Christ, let me encourage you. The time is now. Jesus has set a new standard. He set a new standard. It's not us and it's not them. Jesus said we're all on the same playing field. Everybody can come to me. Everybody can receive my grace. Everybody can receive my love. It's no longer the religious elite. It's no longer your heredity. It's no longer that you were born into some religious family. It's no longer about pedigree. It's about Jesus. I am the way. I am the truth. I am the life. You see, in the Old Testament, in the church, they used to have this big old veil, this big old big curtain. And this curtain was a separation between you and God because as sinners, we couldn't enter into this room. You couldn't enter into the presence of God. Only this religious elite. But see, all that changed. Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life. And He said this. He gives us permission to get close to God. You see, the Old Testament built a wall. History built a wall, but Jesus came in and He said, I give you permission to get close to my Father. You can come to my Father through me. He said, my blood covers everybody. I got up on that cross and I did it for you. My blood leveled the playing field. You see, Jesus hung out with prostitutes and He hung out with sinners and He hung out with drunkards. He hung out with His disciples, had people with PhDs. And He had people with no education. You see, Jesus' blood is for highly educated and no educated. Jesus' blood is for people who got MBAs and PhDs, and it's for people who are in AA and NA. It covers everybody. Jesus' blood is for somebody young, and it's for somebody old. You can accept Christ at 80. You can accept Christ on the cross right before you die, or you can accept it when you're a child. Jesus says, I am for you, and I am waiting patiently. My blood covers everybody. My blood is for everybody. My blood is for those who have never done a drug, and my blood is for those who are in the process of doing drugs. He says, my blood is for the people who have been married for 50 years, and my blood is for people who have had a failed marriage. My blood is for people who have had 4 kids, and my blood is for people who have given up their kid. My blood is for people who have made a decision about my kid that you're going to live with for the rest of your life. He says, my blood is for you. My blood is for the ex-felon, and my blood is for the squeaky clean. My blood is for if you wear a suit to church, and my blood is for if you don't have clothes that are nice to wear to church. He said, my blood is for you. My blood is not prejudice. My blood sees no color. The color is red. He says, my blood is for you. My blood does not pick and choose. My blood doesn't care if you come from the wrong side of the tracks. My blood is not for this group and not that group. He says, my blood is for everybody. He said, I am the way. And that is the truth. And He is the life. He said, my blood is for the haves and the have-nots. My blood is for those who have it all together and for those who are a jacked up mess. And I'm going to be honest with you, there's more of us in this room that are a jacked up mess than there are that have it all together. We just play the game better. He said, my blood is for those who grew up in church, and my blood is for those who just walked in. My blood is for those who have been believers for 40 years, and my blood is for those who are not believers yet. My blood is for everyone. And my Father's house is open to you. This church is open to you. Our church is open to our community. And let me tell you something. You don't need to go through a preacher to get right with God. You don't need an elder. Look, I don't have a direct line. I got the same line you got. When Jesus died, He said, nobody comes to the Father except through me. I get asked this question all the time. I love it. Matthew 27, 51 and 52. At that moment, the curtain in the sanctuary of the temple was torn in two from top to bottom. The earth shook. The rocks split. You know what that means? That means the wall became an open door. That's what it means. The wall became an open door. I have people all the time, they come up to me and they say, Pastor, will you pray for? And I look at them and I say, you don't need me to pray for them. You need to pray for them. I'll pray with you. You have the doorway to God. You have the doorway to Jesus. I don't care where you've been in life. Jesus says, my blood is for you. Just come to me. If you need peace, I'll give you peace. If you're tired, I'll give you strength. If you need wisdom, I'll give you wisdom. Just come to me. I am the way. The preacher's not the way. The music's not the way. Jesus says, I am the way. Just come to me. Let me ask you something. I'm going to ask you to stand up, and then I've got an action step for you this morning. You see, here's the deal. I'm going to show you this morning. I'm going to pray for you. I don't want you to stand up yet. Sit down. Hold on. Let me ask you something. If you have a son or a daughter that needs prayed for, stand up. If you have a grandson or a granddaughter that needs prayed for, stand up. If you have a brother or a sister or a mother or a father that needs prayed for, stand up. If you have somebody that you know that is going through addiction, stand up. If you have somebody that you know that is going through a marriage problem, stand up. If you have somebody that you know that is far from God, stand up. If you have somebody that you know that needs to come to Christ, stand up. If you have somebody that you know that had an abortion that needs freedom, stand up. If you know somebody who's fighting with addiction right now that needs freedom, stand up. If you know somebody in your world that needs the grace and the love of Jesus Christ, stand up. What I see in here this morning is about 500 people on their feet. You don't need me. This morning we're going to pray for those people. So as our worship team comes up, we're going to sing this song. It's called Come to the Altar. I have made some very ugly boards. I am not a construction guy. I'm a preacher. But here's the deal. Each of these boards have Sharpies. There's some glass on the front. Whoever you stood up for this morning, I want you to bring it to the one who can change it. Jesus says, I am the way. I'm the one that is going to change the person that you're standing up for. I am the truth. I'm the one that's going to help. Only through me will they find freedom. And I am the life. That if they'll come to me, they'll spend eternity with you. And this morning as a church, we're going to pray. And so if these guys singing, if this is weird to you, you don't have to come up. I don't want you coming up because you feel peer pressured. I want you to come up, and I want you to kneel down, and I want you to write a name on that board. And this may take a minute, and we may be a little late for lunch. Get over it. There's a bunch of people in this room that have somebody that needs grace and love and the power of Jesus. And let me tell you something this morning. If you're in here and you haven't accepted Christ, let this be the day that you walk down. Put your name on the board. And let today be the day that you begin to follow Him. It'll be the journey of a lifetime. You don't have to jump through hoops. Stop, follow. Stop, follow. Stop, follow. And as you kneel down and as you're writing those names, say a quick prayer. Today as a church, we're going to bring it to the altar.